Welcome to video 2 of the Security Analytics Engine walkthrough and demo. In this video, we're going to walk through a couple of scenarios that really show the features of the Security Analytics Engine. And to do that, I'm going to go over to my virtual machines and start with basically the user experience of getting access to an application in Cloud Access Manager. So I'm just going to fire up my browser. There's no multi-factor authentication configured currently on my login, but what I have done is configured it for the application you're going to see right over here. So for these applications, I should be able to connect to them, get access just fine. There I am logging in, no problem, form fill. We can try the header injection example, works just fine. And we can even try something federated like Google Apps. And again, we're in just fine. So what happens though when we connect to an environment that's secured for multi-factor authentication, like this one? Well, let's hit it. Boom, we get a multi-factor authentication prompt. So what I have to do now is go get my token, log in, get a new response, come over here, paste that in, and now we get the web page. The point I was making before in video 1 is that if I shut my browser down now, the session cookies are gone, and when I try to do this scenario again, I'm going to be prompted again, and again, and again, every single time I click on this. Right now, of course, it's going to go in because I have a valid session. However, if we kill the session and come back in, let's just go ahead and drive that point home. Click on it again, and there's my multi-factor prompt again. So right now, essentially what we've done is we've turned on multi-factor authentication and we've assigned it to a specific application. There are variations of how you can do this in Cloud Access Manager. We can say only external users are going to have multi-factor authentication. All users are going to have multi-factor authentication. We can assign it to a specific application, and we can even say only users of a specific role have multi-factor authentication. But again, we're not using a risk-based approach, so every single time those particular users hit the exact same site, under those circumstances, they're going to get that multi-factor challenge every single time. So let's turn off multi-factor authentication and instead turn on the Security Analytics Engine. To do that, we're going to close this down and log into the admin interface. We're going to go to the settings, and you'll see this new option called Externalized Access Control. Click on that, and you can see Cloud Access Manager will manage the step-up authentication decisions. That's what we want to change. We're going to say the Security Analytics Engine will manage those decisions. When you do that, you see the defaults pop up at the bottom of the screen here. For instance, the low risk user setting is currently from 0 to 2. You can see where I can change that. Medium risk is 3 to 5, just like in the presentation in video 1. If we scroll down a little bit more, you can see this is what we do with a low risk user, this is what we do with a medium risk user, and this is what we do with the high risk user. Okay? So these are the global settings that are set. Let's just go ahead and save that, and then go back and take a look at the application we were testing before. So that's in here. And now we'll see that where we used to see multi-factor authentication choices, we see instead threat levels. Right now, regardless of the threat, it's going to say I'm going to allow access for low-risk users, I'm going to allow access for medium-risk users, and I'm going to allow access for high-risk users. So we're going to change that. We're going to say high-risk folks are going to be denied, medium-risk users are going to be doing a step-up authentication. And so if I wanted to, I could say this is an ultra-sensitive application, and unless you're a low-risk user, I'm going to deny you completely. What we're showing here is essentially the global policy can be overridden for a specific application. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with the global policy, or at least make it seem the same, and we're going to click Save. So now we can minimize this and go back over to our user. And because our user is essentially considered a low-risk user at this point, when we click the basic authentication link, we can see he gets right into the application. So there's no multi-factor challenge here because in my lab environment, I've already built the profile for this user. I already know which IP he's coming from, the time of day he's coming from, geographically where he's coming from, etc. So let's show what happens when the policy is actually kicking in. And to do this, we're going to go to a machine on the network that's basically been identified as a threat. So let's go down and launch the browser. We'll log in. And we sail right into the portal. which isn't exactly what I would expect if this machine was on a blacklisted server. So let's go back and take a look at the policy and find out why. Over here is the Security Analytics Engine interface, and we're going to go over to Applications, select Cloud Access Manager, and edit that application. We can see the policies down at the bottom. We'll select the current policy and edit that. And here's where you can see the blacklist. I see, so blacklist is only generating a threat of 2. That's not really high enough for me to do a multi-factor challenge. If you hit this little I right here, we can say, well, what if someone violates this and they have an abnormal location? Well, now we're up to 4. What if they come from an abnormal browser too? Okay, well, that would definitely give a warning. But in my example, I think anyone that's blacklisted should at least get a multi-factor challenge. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and pump it up to about a level 4, a moderate threat, and click Save. Save again, save the policy, and now we can go back to that threat, try to log in again, and see if we get a different challenge this time. So let's log in. And now we're getting a multi-factor prompt. So if we wanted to, we could have blocked this user completely. But really what I wanted to do is just kind of say, hey, this is a malware host. It's a machine that could honestly be controlled from an external source. I'm going to make sure that you at least put in a multi-factor challenge. That's something that the hackers are going to have a hard time doing. But what if we wanted to block someone completely? Well, let's take a look at this user. So now we're over in North Korea, and our buddy Kim is logging in. He's going to get into his browser and try to access Cloud Access Manager. So we'll fire up the browser on his machine. Here's the prompt. We log in. And this time we see a very different message. This one just says, "You're not authorized." Well, this again raises the question of what do we do when someone's trying to connect from a machine that has such a higher risk that they can't even get in? So who knows? Maybe this person in North Korea is being forced to log in and he calls the help desk and says, "You got to help me." So let's go back over and take a look at the help desk feature. We're going to come back over to Home, look at the audit trail, and we're going to find the machine that's currently trying to log in from North Korea. And sure enough, you can actually see the North Korean IP address here. We can query the user, who are you? You go through the steps you would normally go through to identify who this person is and make sure they are who they say they are. But what we're going to do is click on this record and go to details. And from details, we can basically see that there was a number of things that blocked this person from getting access. He had an abnormal location, right? We can look at the parameters that are involved there. So the last time this user was connecting, he was in California. Now he's in North Korea. We can look at the browser. It's an unknown browser this person was using, right? There's some details here. And we can also see that he came from a restricted country. So there's a number of things that are, and the restricted country one, that was a 1,000 risk here. So he's definitely not getting in. But again, the user has told us who he is, he's proven who he is, and we want to help him out so he can get in. So we're just going to click this override button, create a temporary override, and we're going to call him back, or maybe we're on the phone with him and we're going to say, you can go ahead and log in now. So if we go back over to North Korea, and kill this browser and try that one more time. We'll see that for this session, he gets in just fine and he can get the job done that he needs to do. So let's recap what we saw in this video. We started off with Cloud Access Manager configured for multi-factor authentication on a specific application. And no matter what we did, every single time we hit that application, we were going to get a multi-factor prompt. We turned on the Security Analytics Engine, and now those multi-factor prompts started to go away. Right? We were able to get in because the Security Analytics Engine said, this is such a low risk for this person, I really don't need to do this anymore. Then we showed what happened when we went to a machine that was a higher risk. And the initial experience was that we got through just fine. So we edited the policy to say, no, you shouldn't be getting through just fine if you're from a machine that is a medium risk. And so we actually took that specific policy regarding blacklists and we made it a moderate threat. We went back to that machine and we saw that the only way we could get in was with the multi-factor authentication. And then finally we went to a machine in North Korea that was flat out blocked for multiple reasons. But the scenario there was, what do I do when I really do need to get in and it really is me and I'm just simply on a machine that has a high risk? That's a help desk function. If the help desk decides that I'm going to go ahead and allow this person to come through, they can create a policy override, which is exactly what we saw here. And now that person can log in. And of course, it's all going to be audited. We know who created the override. We know which user that override was for. But basically what we're showing here is a dynamic, intelligent way of making step-up authentication that I think our customers are going to get a lot of value from. So let's stop hammering our customers with the multi-factor sledgehammer and start moving to something that's implemented a little bit more elegantly, and that's the Security Analytics Engine in Cloud Access Manager.